favourite fish film odyssey, Loch Sunart, Ardnamurchan Peninsula, Scotland. With Loch Allen boat charters, the underwater landscape is very different. In the last ice age, this would have been a cliff and a grassy slope down to a river, with bushes here, there and everywhere. We are diving here today because the wind, a force 7, is coming right up the Sound of Mull. The water is about 15 degrees C and the visibility 10 metres at 28 metres, and very like diving in the twilight. In this film you'll see what looks like a sandy bottom. It is interspersed with rocks and has a gelatinous coating of rotting algae and plankton, making it very dusty when you fin or touch it. As a result of the poor light, lack of tidal flow, lack of food, the sand appears devoid of life. Not so. It is the ultra specialists who live here, in this odd micro-habitat, which is actually, in fact, a vast sandy plain. Long-clawed squat lobsters, soft corals called redfingers. I won't interject much, but I will let you observe this habitat as I dive. I'll highlight things as they appear. You may have noticed the rock slopes are around me as I have descended. It's covered in kelp. Its growth is stunted by the poor light conditions, even though it's the height of summer and the height of the growing season. Buddy, Les Roos. You can't fail but to see the sandy bottom to my right. You'll also see, to my left, the bottom kicked out by other divers in our group. You can see how dusty it is. This is rotting detritus everywhere. The noise, the boat above manoeuvring using its propellers. I mentioned the ultra specialist, here a stunning feather starfish. I should mention at this point in the dive that my GoPro close-up camera has malfunctioned, and the card inside, although all the files looked as though they were recording, none of them were readable afterwards, so unfortunately the whole week's filming was lost. You can see here the slightest touch on the bottom and a massive cloud of dust just appears and rolls down the slope. A great opportunity to explain my diving configuration. I am using air. Both cylinders on my back are 10 litres. The black breathing valve is on my right cylinder with a contents gauge, depth gauge and compass. Connected to this on the right side with my BCD life jacket. The yellow breathing valve is connected to the left hand tank and is no more than a backup cylinder for diving. With a contents gauge on the left hand side of my BCD. This is year 46 of my diving. I have had this configuration in many iterations for almost all of my scuba diving time and adventures. My dry suit, BCD and long 2 metre breathing hose is there for my buddy should they have a malfunction. The small cylinder is a 7 litre cylinder filled with 50% oxygen. I do all my decompression and safety stops on this at the end of every dive, using my computer to manage the time and depth. As soon as I surface, I transfer back to air whilst getting back on the boat. This 50% oxygen is expensive, but it reduces my chances of having a decompression sickness incident to almost zero. As I zoom in, you can see the long-clawed squat lobsters move. Sometimes you just have to clean the housing to ensure there's no detritus or bubbles on the outside. It's rare in UK diving to see 4 divers in a piece of film. It shows you how good the visibility is down at 30 metres. It's quite spectacular really. You're getting a good view of what most divers would call a muddy bottom. However, without this ecosystem, many other linked habitats would fail to exist. As we start to move up the slight slope into the shallow water, we come into contact with the other divers in our party. Inevitably, the visibility reduces as we contact their finning stream. As you can see here, we try hard to keep our fins from the bottom and still move forwards. It's not easy. Sunstar, a major predator, feeding on prey it's caught on this seemingly barren bottom. Not so. All you need is a place to settle and build a home. This rock provides that for the redfingers. This is a beauty and clearly doing well in its chosen place. You can certainly see where Redfingers gets its name in this shot. You can see all the little star-shaped cups out feeding in the plankton stream. sea urchins like this one. Not so easy to see in my lights, but here I'm filming a common scallop. Here we have arrived at the junction between the cliff boulder slope and the sand. can see, the rock now has kelp on it. Clearly we're now back in shallower waters. Time to contemplate the dive we've just done and do our safety stops so we don't have a decompression incident. I've now swapped over to the 50% enriched air to reduce the chances of having a post-dive decompression incident to almost nil. Thanks to Loch Sunart Boat Charters, my buddy Les Roos and dive organiser Paul Fiander. Music by Dan Hennig and Asher Fullero. I'm Tony Howells, filmmaker. This was a wet fish film odyssey. I hope you've enjoyed watching this film as much as we did diving and making it. I hope you want to protect our home as much as I do.